Hello students, welcome for the new lecture. In this lecture, we will explore how management thoughts have evolved till date. So, management is being studied in business as well as engineering academics since an earlier time, and it is considered as an integral part of any business operations. People have been changing and redesigning organizations and its structure since centuries. Though 20th century is noticeable in the history as an era of scientific management, still it doesn't indicate that management techniques were not present in the past years. Many studies indicated that management theory evolved with the scientific and bureaucratic management that used measurement, procedure routines as the basis of all operations. Firms developed the hierarchies to apply standardized rules to the place of work and penalize the labor for violating rules. With the human relation movement, companies emphasizes the individual workers. So these are the major learning outcomes of the lecture. After completing this module, you will be able to understand the evolution of management thoughts, understand different management eras, and know the impact of management thoughts. So the evaluation of management can be categorized into different parts. Firstly, we can divide it an pre-scientific management era, which was before year 1880. The next categorization is the of classical management era, which is considered from 1880 to 1930. Third is neoclassical management era from 1930 to 1950. And then the modern management era, which began from 1950 and onwards. Again, classical management includes scientific management school, administration management school, bureaucracy management. Neoclassical management includes human relations school and behavioral management school. Modern management include social system school, decision theory school, quantitative management school, system management school, and contingency management school. Now let us see the early management thoughts. The period of 1700 to 1800 emphasizes the industrial revolution, and the factory system highlights the industrial revolution and the importance of direction as a managerial purpose. Thus, the development of management theory can be recognized as the way people have struggled with relationships at particular times in olden periods. Many economic theorists during this period described the notion of management. Adam Smith and James Watt have been recognized as two theorists who launched the world toward industrialization. Adam Smith brought about the revolution in financial thought, and James Watt's steam engine provided cheaper power that revolutionized English commerce and industry. Both provided the base for modern concepts of business management and practice. Adam Smith explicated the concept of division of labor, and Jacques Turgot described the importance of direction and control. Smith stated that market and competition should be controllers of economic activity and that tax policies were destructive. The specialization of labor was the basis of Smith's market system. According to Smith, a division of labor provided managers with the maximum opportunity for improved output. From 1771 to 1858, Robert Owens studied for concern for the workers. He was repulsed by the working conditions and poor treatment of the workers in the factories across Scotland. Owen became a reformer. He reduced the use of child labor and used ethical influence rather than physical punishment in his factories. He reapproached his fellow factory owners for treating their equipment better than they treated their workers. In the quantitative approach of early management thought, Charles Babbage is recognized as the supporter of operations, research, and management science. Babbage's scientific innovations are a mechanical calculator, a versatile computer, and a punch card machine. His project never became a commercial reality. However, Babbage is considered the creator of concept behind the present day computer, The most popular book of Babbage on the economy of machinery and manufacturers described the tools and machinery used in English factories. It discussed the economics principles of manufacturing and analyzed the operations and the skills used and suggested improved practices. Babbage considered in the benefit of division of labor and was a supporter of profit sharing. He developed a method of observing manufacturing that is the same approach utilized today by operations analysts and consultants analyzing manufacturing operations. Other theorists who contributed to the quantitative approach to early management thought were Robert Owen, Andrew Orr, and Charles Dupin, Henry Robinson, and Towen. So, let us move to the classical approach of management. The classical approach is the earliest thought of the management. The classical approach was associated with the ways to manage work and organizations more efficiently. The classical approach is categorized into three groups, namely scientific management, administrative management, and bureaucratic management. So, first we will see scientific management. Scientific management, which is also referred to Taylorism or the Taylor system, is a theory of management that evaluates and synthesizes workflows with the aim of improving labor productivity. In other words, conventional rules of thumb are substituted by accurate procedures developed after careful study of an individual at work. Universal approaches to scientific management are developed for efficiency of workers, standardization of job roles or activities, and discipline, the role of manager, and the business hierarchy. The scientific management theory had an enormous impact on the business industry at the beginning of 20th century. Many big and victorious organizations such as McDonald's hamburger chain or call centers utilized a modern version of scientific management. Among famous theorists, Taylor's contribution in the area of scientific management is invaluable. The components of scientific management are determination of the task, planning, proper selection and training of workers, improvement in methods, modification of organization and mental revolution such as job specialization. As a result, it became more concerned with physical things than towards the people, even though increased the output. Scientific management focuses on worker and machine relationships. Organizational productivity can be increased by enhancing the competence of production processes. So, Taylor's scientific management. Academic records indicated that F.W. Taylor and his colleagues developed the first systematic study in management. He initiated an innovative movement in 1910 which is identified as scientific management. Frederick Taylor is known as the father of scientific management, and he published Principles of Scientific Management, in which he proposed work method designed to boost worker productivity. Taylor asserted that to succeed in this principle, it is necessary to transform the part of management and labor completely. His philosophy was based on some basic principles. The link for F.W. Taylor's Principle of Management is given above. You can explore that there. So next one is administrative management. Administrative management emphasizes the manager and the functions of management. The main objective of administrative management is to describe the management process and philosophy of management. In contradiction of scientific management, which deals mainly with jobs and works at the individual level of scrutiny, administrative management gives a universal theory of management. Henry Fayol's administrative management. Henry Fayol is known as the father of modern management. He was a popular industrialist and victorious manager. Fayol considered that good management practice falls into certain pattern that can be recognized and analyzed. From this basic perspective, he devised a blueprint for a consistent policy of managers, one that retains much of devised its force to this day. His 5 functions of manager was the plan, organize, command, coordinate and control. The principle of administrative management defined by Henry Fayol. The link for Henry Fayol's Principle of Administrative Management is given above. You can explore that there. So next one is bureaucratic management. Bureaucratic management denotes to the perfect type of organization. The principle of bureaucracy include defined and specialized functions, use of legal authorities, hierarchical form, written rules and procedures, technically trained bureaucrats, appointment to positions based on technical expertise, promotion based on competence and defined career paths. The German sociologist Max Weber, recognized as the father of modern sociology, who appraised bureaucracy as the most logical and structure for the big organization. With this observation in the business world, Weber summarized that earlier business firms were unproductively managed, with decisions based on personal relationships and faithfulness. He proposed that a form of organization called a bureaucracy, characterized by division of labor, hierarchy, formalized rules, impersonality, and the selection of promotion of employees based on ability, would lead to more well organized management. Weber also argued that authoritative position of managers in an organization should be based not on tradition or personality, but the position held by manager in the organizational hierarchy. Max Weber devised a theory of bureaucratic management that emphasized the need for a firmly defined hierarchy governed by clearly defined regulations and lines of authority. He considered the perfect organization to be bureaucracy whose activities and objectives reasonably thought out and whose divisions of labor were defined. Weber also believed that technical capability should be emphasized and that performance evaluation should be made completely by merit. Presently, it is considered that bureaucracies are huge, impersonal organizations that put impersonal competence ahead of human needs. Like the scientific management theorists, Weber sought to advance the performance of socially important organizations by making their operations predictable and productive. Although we now value innovation and flexibilities as much as efficiency and predictability, Weber's model of bureaucratic management evidently advanced the development of vast corporations such as Ford. The bureaucracy was a particular pattern of relationships for which Weber saw great promise. Although bureaucracy has been successfully for many companies in the competitive global market of the 90s, organizations such as General Electric and Xerox have adopted bureaucracy, throwing away the organization chart and replacing it with ever-changing constellations of teams, projects, and alliances with the goal of unleashing employee creativeness. So let's move to the modern management approach. Let us first discuss about behavioral approach. Numerous theorists developed the behavioral approach of the management thought as they observed the weakness in assumptions of the classical approach. The classical approach emphasized the efficiency, process, and principles. Some management scholars consider that this management thought ignores the importance aspect of organizational life, particularly it related to the human behavior aspect. Hence, the behavioral approach concentrated on understanding of the factors that affect the human behavior at work. The behavioral approach has been based on the numerous principles. One is decision making. Decision making is done in a suboptimal manner because of practical and situational constraints on the human rationality of decision making. The behaviorists attach great weightage on perspective, participative, and decision making. Behavioral scientists promote self-direction and control instead of imposed control. Behavioral scientists believe the organization as a group of individuals with certain goals. Behavioral scientists pursue that the democratic participative styles of leadership are inevitable. The autocratic task-oriented styles may also be appropriate in the certain situations. Behavioral scientists propose that different people react differently to the same situation. No two people are exact similar. The manager should tailor his attempts to influence his people according to their needs. Behavioral scientists identify that organizational variance and change are predictable. Next one is Human relation approach. The human relationists which also denote the neoclassicists focused as human aspect of the business. These theorists emphasizes that organization is a social system and the human factor is the most vital element within it. There are numerous basic principles of the human relation approach that are mentioned below. So we will see one by one. First one is decentralization. The concept of hierarchy employed by classical management theorists is replaced with the idea that individual workers and functional areas, that is departments, should be given greater autonomy and decision making power. This needs greater emphasis on lateral communications so that coordination of efforts and resources can occur. This communication occurs via informal communication channels rather than the formal one and hierarchical ones. Next one is participatory decision making. Decision making is participatory in the sense that those making decisions on a day-to-day basis include line workers not normally considered to be management. The greater sovereignty afforded individual employees and the subsequent reduction in height and increase in the span of control of the organizational structure requires that they have the knowledge and ability to make their own decisions and the communication skills to coordinate their efforts with others without a nearby supervisor. Next one is concern for developing self-motivated employees. The importance of a system of decentralized and autonomous decision making by members of the organization necessitates that those members be extremely self-motivated. The goal of managers in such an organization is to design and implement organizational structures that reward such self-motivation and autonomy. Another is to negotiate working relationships with subordinates that foster effective communication in both directions. Elton Mayo and others conducted experiments that were known as Hawthorne experiments and explored informal groupings, informal relationships, patterns of communications, and patterns of internal leadership. Elton Mayo is usually popular as the father of human relations school. The human relationists advocate the several factors after conducting Hawthorne experiment which are mentioned below. So first one is social system. The organization in general is a social system consists of numerous interacting parts. The social system established individual roles and established norms that may differ from those of formal organization. Next one is social environment. The social climate of the job affects the workers and is also affected. Informal organization does also exist within the framework of the formal organization and it affects and is affected by the formal organization. Group dynamics. At the place of work, the workers often do not act or react as individuals but as members of the group. The group plays an important role in determining the attitudes and performance of individual workers. Informal leader. There is an appearance of informal leadership as against formal leadership, and the informal leader sets and enforces group norms. Non-economic reward. Money is an encouraging element but not the only motivator of human behavior. Man is diversely motivated and socio-psychological factors act as important motivators. So next approach is contingency approach. This approach of management thought focuses on management principles and concepts that have no general and universal application under all conditions. John Woodward in 1950s has contributed to developing this approach in management. Contingency school states that management is situational and the study of management recognizes the importance variables a situation. It distinguishes that all the subsystems of the environment is interconnected and interrelated. By studying their interrelationships, the management can find a resolution to the specific situation. Theorists stated that there are no effective way of doing things under all business conditions. Methods and techniques which are extremely effective in one situation may not give the same results in another situation. Next approach is quantitative approach. The quantitative approach aimed at enhancing the process of decision making through the use of quantitative techniques. It is evolved from the principle of scientific management. First one is management science or operation research. Management science, which is also known as operations research, utilized mathematical and statistical approaches to resolve management issues. It was developed during World War II as strategists attempted to apply scientific knowledge and methods to the intricate troubles of war. The industry started to apply management science after the war. The introduction of the computer technology made many management science tools and concepts more practical for industry. Second one is production and operation management. W. Edwards Deming exercised a great influence in the developing contemporary ideas to improve productivity and quality. Major areas of study within operations management include capacity planning, facilities location, facilities layout, materials requirements, planning, scheduling, purchasing, and inventory control. Quality control, the computer integrated manufacturing, just in time inventory systems, and flexible manufacturing systems. So learn is system approach. The system approach deals with the thoroughly understanding the organization as an open system that converts input into outputs. The system approach has a great impact on management thought in 1960s. During this period, thinking about managing practices allowed managers to relate different specialities and parts of the company to one another, as well as to external environmental factors. The system approach focuses on the organization as a whole, its communication with the environment, and its need to achieve equilibrium. As we can see in this figure that there is input which is processed and the output is given. From the output we take the feedback and give into input, and the external environment affects both input as well as output. So let us summarize this lecture. So there are many theories given in the management, and each theory has a distinct role to the knowledge of what managers do. Management is an interdisciplinary and global field that has been developed in parts over the years. Numerous approaches to the management theories developed that include